And welcome to CBN NewsWatch. I'm from Graham. Coming up, President Biden presents the framework for his compromise deal on spending, but some Democrats in the House remain divided. We're going to bring you the latest. Plus, social media influences a number of people from all walks of life, but how can Christians learn to use it to reflect biblical values?
Be truthful. Be compassionate. A gentle answer brings down anger. Don't stir up controversy.
And it's that time of year for the joys of Christmas music. And recording artist Zach Williams delivers with a new album.
Hang on, mistletoe, I'm gonna get to know you better.
All these stories and more are coming up next.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
And we begin this half hour with President Biden beginning a week-long foreign trip without the domestic win he'd hoped for. The Democrat-controlled House has yet to pass his signature infrastructure bill. Our Jennifer Wishon explains in our top story how Democrats remain divided on how to spend America's tax dollars.
Overnight, the president touching down in Rome, where he'll meet with the Pope and kick off a 5-day foreign trip, but without the political feather in his hat he'd hoped for.
Too many no votes for the bill to pass.
The House failing Thursday to even vote on the infrastructure bill already approved by the Senate, despite the White House releasing a framework on the president's big social spending and climate change bill, as progressives have demanded before passing infrastructure. The commander-in-chief going to Capitol Hill, appealing to Democrats in person. And according to Bloomberg, telling House Democrats their future hangs in the balance, saying, "I don't think it's hyperbole to say that the House and Senate majorities and my presidency will be determined by what happens in the next week." Speaker Pelosi delivering her own message.
Do not embarrass the president by, when I put this on the House floor, to not vote for it. Basically, it's got to pass. We don't want to embarrass the president when he's overseas. That's kind of what it's come down to. It's a clown car kind of all over the place right now.
Following demands from Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, the president's spending plan basically cut in half, from $3.5 trillion to $1.75 over 10 years.
This framework includes historic investments in our nation and in our people.
It includes $500 billion to fight climate change, universal pre-K, extends the child tax credit for a year, and Democrats say will reduce health care premiums. But dropped from the final outline, major programs like free community college and paid family leave, leaving progressives shell-shocked.
We put paid leave in, it's in, and then all of a sudden at the last minute, somebody said it's out.
It has some major gaps in it.
I felt a little bamboozled because this was not what I thought was coming today.
Democrats are still working out how to pay for the new spending, looking at proposed new taxes on businesses, including a 15% minimum for many large corporations and on profits earned by U.S. companies abroad. Americans making more than $10 million annually will be hit, and IRS tax enforcement will be increased. But critics doubt those new taxes will be enough. Brian Riedel with the Manhattan Institute tweeting, calling today's framework paid for is so dishonest, estimating $2 trillion in hidden costs. The big question, will the new government programs cost more than advertised? And will tax hikes bring in as much money as Washington needs? If not, federal deficits could rise even higher than expected in the years ahead. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Controversy at the State Department over a policy that approves passports for people who don't identify as male or female. As senior national affairs correspondent Heather Sells reports, some are pushing back against the transgender movement.
The State Department's historic move shows the full force of the transgender movement. It now allows passport holders to bypass identifying as male or female and mark X instead. Author Abigail Schreier called the change one of the clearest indications that gender ideology has infiltrated the highest levels of government. The X designation a concession to people who identify as transgender or intersex, those born with both male and female characteristics.
I'm an intersex person, and I had rights as such. The first person to receive the new passport, Dana Zim, an intersex activist in Colorado. State will now allow anyone to select male, female, or X on their passport, with no medical certification required. It also plans to push other governments to offer the 3 gender options, a move activists applaud.
I am hoping that this will, as soon as possible, become routine.
The move a challenge to those who hold biblical beliefs about sexuality.
They're putting the stamp of human rights on people's thoughts on what is moral when this is actually immoral.
At the same time, Republican-led states are pushing back against transgender activism. This week, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a bill requiring public school athletes to compete based on their biological sex. 5 other states have passed similar laws. And new research is raising questions about transgender medicine.
I think it's heartbreaking that some of these young people didn't get the evaluation, the support, the kind of, mental health services that they needed.
In a peer-reviewed study, Dr. Lisa Littman found that the majority of those who reversed their decision to change genders reported they did not receive adequate evaluations from medical providers before they started to transition. Heather Sells, CBN News.
The relationship between the U.S. and Israel is hitting a snag over the Biden administration's desire to reopen its consulate for the Palestinians in Jerusalem. Not only does the move contradict American law, some see it as an attempt to redivide the city. Joining us now from Jerusalem is our Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell. He is joining us right now with more on this story. So, Chris, why are Israeli leaders not agreeing with the U.S. consulate opening its doors to Palestinians?
Well, Ephraim, right now they're concerned that it would send a signal to the Palestinians that they also have a claim to Jerusalem. What it basically would do would reverse what the Trump administration has done. You may remember 2017, they recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Then the following year, 2018, they moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, actually 70 years to the day after Israel was declared a state. Then 2019, what they did was they put the consulate and the Palestinian Affairs Unit under the authority of the embassy and the ambassador. So right now, that what happened is that consulate had been operating as a de facto embassy to the Palestinians. So the concern for Israel right now is that by reversing that decision, it sends a signal to the Palestinians that they have a legitimate claim to the city of Jerusalem, and that it would lead possibly to the division of the city.
What is the reaction from Palestinian leaders on this?
Well, Ephraim, they love it. They see it as one way to legitimize their claims to Jerusalem for a future Palestinian state. That's been their position for a long time, that they want to actually divide the city. They want the eastern part of the city. That includes the Temple Mount, the Mount of Olives, mainly the holy sites that Jews and Christians and Muslims revere. They've said so publicly. The Palestinian prime minister said so, that that would lead to the recognition of Jerusalem as their state. A major step to dividing the city between Palestinians and Israelis. How far it goes remains to be seen. It really depends on what Israel's going to do.
In terms of what Israel can do, can Israel legally stop this move?
Well, they can. The reason they can do that, Ephraim, is because in 1963, there was a convention in Vienna that says that only a state can allow a consulate from another state to be established within its borders. So it's really up to Israel right now if they're going to recognize this consulate. They don't want to. However, the caveat is that the U.S. is pressuring Israel to go ahead and reestablish this consulate for the Palestinians. That's the position of Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State. We do know that they're putting pressure on Israel. We don't know what it is, but we'll see what happens. But it's really an interesting and a very volatile situation for both Israel and the United States, particularly as the Biden administration and the Bennett coalition over here are trying to manage how they're going to react and relate for the next couple of years.
Did this move come as a surprise to Israeli leaders?
Well, they've been expecting it for several months. When Blinken came over here a few months ago, that was his intention. He went to Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. He said he wanted to reopen the consulate. So they've been expecting this, and so it's been under the surface for a long time, but it's getting closer to the actual moment when perhaps the U.S. is going to pressure Israel even more to go ahead and do this.
Real quick, in just a few seconds, what can we expect this weekend on Jerusalem Dateline?
Well, we're going to have Blue Flags 2021. 7 other nations behind Israel had aerial exercise to send a message to Iran, in particular, that the best air forces in the world can really prepare against the enemies here in the Middle East. And also, a precious gem, Ephraim, from 2,000 years ago, gives a clue about ancient Israel. And finally, the Jerusalem Marathon took place after it was canceled by COVID last year.
Good news. Thank you so much, Chris. Always appreciate it. Want to remind you at home that you can see more news from the Middle East and Chris Mitchell and his team on this station or on the CBN News Channel this evening at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Join us for Jerusalem Dateline. Coming up, how can Christians use social media to reflect their biblical values? We're going to have the answer to that question for you when we come back. Stay with us.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
A former Facebook employee recently told the world how the social media giant profits off anger and division. That online ranker has also infiltrated the church. So how can Christian leaders learn to use their social media influence to reflect their biblical values? Our Charlene Aaron shares some guidance from the gospel.
During recent testimony on Capitol Hill, former Facebook employee turned whistleblower Frances Haugen claimed that the tech giant knowingly stokes divisions and spreads misinformation for its own profit. Feuds on the platform have led to the breakup of family and friends. Now some are pointing to a healthier way for believers to engage online. From the 2020 last presidential election and rioting after the death of George Floyd to the debate surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic, Americans have taken to social media to get the news and to voice their views. But at what expense? The internet, originally intended to bring people together, now seems to be taking an opposite tact.
The version of Facebook that exists today is tearing our societies apart.
Former Facebook product manager Frances Haugen shared on 60 Minutes and on Capitol Hill that the social media giant manipulates the platform to make it more contentious and angry.
Facebook makes more money when you consume more content. People enjoy engaging with things that elicit an emotional reaction. And the more anger that they get exposed to, the more they interact and more they consume.
That anger even boiling over into relationships between Christians. For example, two women who attended the same church posted on Facebook differing views regarding the 2020 presidential election and the Black Lives Matter movement. It was enough to end their friendship, which had endured for years. The problem highlights how political and other viewpoints seem to outweigh biblical precepts on reconciliation and peace. Matt Ward serves as associate pastor at First Baptist Church in Thompson, Georgia. He says the disconnect shows just how toxic social media can be.
I look at the effect that it's had on my friends, church members, how it makes them feel.
Daniel Darling, author of the book Away with Words, Using Our Online Conversations for Good, agrees, saying some Christians are actually fueling the incivility.
We tend to forget that the people we're interacting with are not avatars or pixels, but they're human beings made in the image of God. And so I think we forget all those things when we go online. And as a result, Christians often act as uncivil and uncharitable as anybody in the world.
After a time of reflection and conversation with church members, Ward came up with a helpful way to get Christians thinking about their time on the web.
In many churches, they do have a formal social media policy for staff members to follow. Where they fall short is offering guidance for church members.
Ward admits the proposal isn't a one-size-fits-all, but encourages pastors, church staff, and members to use their social influence to reflect biblical values on the web.
You are a Christian, and you are always a Christian. Even when you're online, you are always a follower of Jesus Christ. So let's word these guidelines in such a way that you can see, oh, this is what the Bible says. Be truthful. Be compassionate. A gentle answer brings down anger. Don't stir up controversy.
He also suggests promoting the gospel, being kind, courteous, and respectful, and logging off when necessary.
The equivalent of walking away is simply not clicking send and not responding at that time.
Darling says, as followers of Christ, it is vital that we uphold and keep the peace when possible.
One of the things that I think is really unhelpful is when Christians not only say, hey, I disagree with this, but they sort of attack the motives and the motivation of the person making the argument. I think we need to resist that.
He says the quality of our online life is proportional to the quality of our life offline.
Someone who has regular spiritual disciplines, who's living in community, who has a good network of friends, who is living a healthy, balanced Christian life, that will impact the way you interact online.
Darling also points out that he is not suggesting that Christians not engage in important topics of our day.
I do think we can have really robust, substantive conversations about politics. I think we should be outspoken about what we believe. We should stand up for the truth. We can even have really spirited back and forth debates. It's not important just that we say the right things and we stand up for the truth, but how we say it matters.
Meanwhile, Facebook plans to implement new tools to divert teens away from harmful content and enable people on Facebook to reduce the presence of politics. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
And still ahead, the World Series continues tonight. We've got a look at what's next in the series and the faith of some of the players. We'll be right back.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy.
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The the CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain. Get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
It is the best time of year for baseball fans. The World Series underway, and of course we all know it's the Atlanta Braves and the Houston Astros, with the series tied 1-1. Well, Game 3 is tonight. Here with more now is Sports Director Sean Brown. So, Sean, the game continues this evening in Houston. What can we expect? Do you think we're going to go to all 7 games for these two?
Hi, Ephraim. You know what? The series is already off to a great start. As you mentioned, the series is tied 1-1. I love it when it's tied 1-1. It lets us know right out the gate that we are in for a ride. So if you are a baseball fan, brace yourself for a wonderful classic. And yes, I do expect this to go the distance. We're going 7 games. Hey, I love the Braves in this. I'm going to rock with the Braves. I got family in Atlanta. And so I'm going to rock with them. It would be great for Dusty Baker to win one with this team. But again, my family's from Georgia, so I'm going to rock with the Braves on this in 7.
I think I'll stand right there with you. So what can you tell us about the faith of some of these players?
You know, I love the baseball as an organization because thankful to baseballchapel.org, or Baseball Chapel is an organization that provides chaplains for every MLB team. And the Astros and the Braves, of course, they have believers on both teams. Focusing in on with the Astros, of course, Jose Altuve, who the 5'6" slugger knows that, with God, all things are possible. And we've seen that on display this postseason. With the Braves, we're looking at Dansby Swanson and Freddie Freeman, both solid believers in this game. Focusing in on Dansby Swanson, he battled back from anxiety because of studying the scriptures with his wife, U.S. soccer player Mallory Pugh. And so these players deal with so much. When you're watching the series, everything's waiting for that pitch. When that pitch is thrown, they're bracing themselves to find out what's going to happen. If it's a hit, they've got to prepare themselves to respond to whatever is happening on the field. And that can bring a lot of anxiety, nerves. And so these players really, really want to anchor down in their faith to allow God to work through them on the biggest stage of baseball so that they can play their best.
Indeed, a big stage for them to do that. Before we go, what's coming up on Going the Distance this weekend?
Got some great stories. We're going to be talking to Joe Gibbs, talking about what it takes to win. He's won so much in both NASCAR and the NFL. What are those ingredients? And so we get a chance to spend some time with him. We're talking to Jose Altuve, looking at his story. How has he been able to be so successful? The guy is 5'6", the smallest player in MLB, and he's doing it on just a high level consistently. And he's talking about how God uses him on the biggest stage in baseball. So some great stories, so be sure to tune in.
All right. Thank you so much, Sean Brown. I want to remind you at home that you can catch Going the Distance with Sean Brown this weekend on the CBN News Channel. On Saturday, you can catch it at 7:30 in the evening. On Sunday, 6:30 in the evening. Both of those are Eastern Standard Time. Coming up, Christmas will be here before you know it, and some Christian artists are already having some new Christmas music to share throughout the season. We'll be right back with that.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
October ends in just days, and before you know it, Christmas will be here. So if you are ready to go ahead and get into the Christmas spirit with a little Christmas music, there is plenty of new albums out there to share. Zach Williams is among them. Here's a bit of This Christmas in a video made from the recording session.
Hang on, mistletoe, I'm gonna get to know you better. This Christmas, and as we trim the tree, how much fun it's gonna be together. This Christmas, the fireside is blazing bright. We're caroling through the night, and this Christmas will be a very special Christmas for me.
The album is called I Don't Want Christmas to End, known for his hits like Chainbreaker and his There Was Jesus duet with Dolly Parton. Williams brings his style to several Christmas classics. You can see the song list in our roundup, Christian artists who've already released new Christmas music story at cbnnews.com. It features Williams and several other artists you can listen to and sample their sounds inside the article right there. And time for your Friday Faithful. Today I want to leave you with this thought. Lead with love in all things that concern you, trouble you, move you, or even please you. Let love be the guiding force in it all. With that word, I pray you have a fantastic Friday, and be sure to have yourself a wonderful weekend as well. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel or online at cbnnews.com at any time. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. The address is right there at the bottom of your screen. And, of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Thanks for watching. We'll see you right back here, same time Monday.